this is the sort of frustrating thing for me as a lawyer, is because it's a committee of parliament, it's beyond the appeal process or review process that other bodies would be subject to, that are making decisions that affect people personally. And if this was any other type of tribunal, we would have had the ability to have the decision judicially reviewed. And this, honestly, this would have been an absolute smashing in any court at all, because of the process issues right from the start, and because they haven't followed their own rules. And it's, for me, it's the height of hypocrisy to hear these politicians publicly bleating on about the Paati Māori not following the rules, not coming to the party, not doing this, when they're doing the exact same thing. It's really just galling for me, that the level of hypocrisy that's going on.
So is your position, they kind of started not following the rules at the very beginning, therefore kangaroo court all the way through, therefore we can't break the rules in the House? Because just coming back to that original question to get on the same page, you're saying within the House, the leaving of the seat and the going down and crossing the floor and getting near the other players, that's not a rule in the House?
Well, see, this is the other issue in terms of the actual charge that they've been charged with, which is contempt, right? That's a high standard. And if you look at the previous matters that have gone to the committee and the previous suspensions and all of the other behaviour that we've heard about, you raised the issue of Julie Magenta going over and, essentially slamming in front of a person. And there's just been so many other incidents. We should just tell the whānau what we said, because that was before we came on. Is that because I'm not actually obviously citing the government here. I'm just trying to get clarity for myself, because even if there was a rule to not cross this line, Julie Magenta went past that line, picked up people's paper, was literally, she could have been sitting on his desk, she was so close. So just to parallel that, and she was accused of intimidation, bullying as well. So all these words are the same, and she was literally in the person's sphere, on his plinth almost. So just to make sure people knew what we were talking about beforehand. So sorry to interrupt. Yeah, no, that's fine. And, in terms of the comparisons, and this became very clear in the Clark's report to the committee as well, the Clark went through each of the previous incidents in painstaking detail and outlined what the previous punishments were, what the incidents were, and tried really hard to guide the committee to say, look, the last suspension was only 3 days. That was the longest one there was, and that was for Sir Robert Muldoon for some pretty bad behaviour. And none of the other incidents resulted in a suspension. And we've had a myriad of really poor behaviour beyond anything that the Paati Māori MPs did, in my personal opinion. And yet they are proposing the longest ever suspensions in history with zero justification. And that's another point that hasn't been picked up by any of the mainstream media, is that in that report, they do not justify where they get the 21 days from. They do not justify where they get the 7 days from. They literally just plucked it out of the ether and said, that's what we think it should be. So for me, as a lawyer, the process issues lead to a substantive miscarriage of justice. And that's why I'm saying the reason why we got here is because they didn't follow the process in the first place. They didn't allow us and to present the case that should have been presented. And because of that, they've now come out with this outcome that's so outrageously outlandish that, and they're going to have to live with it. Everything that they're saying now to try and justify, what they've come to is just butt covering. That's what it is. They're trying to avoid the backlash that will come. And they're trying to justify how they got to that decision, because there is no justification for it. That's the thing. It's as plain as day. There was no reason for 21 days. There was no reason for 7 days. And they're scrambling around now trying to find one.